Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the program. Already into the week, Lubie. This Monday flew by. It was unbelievable. And good to have you guys with us for this edition of the Defo Show. It's great having Dave Hyatt on the program yesterday. A lot of interesting perspective there. As we are still in the midst of the news cycle. We are the center of the news cycle, or close to it, here in the sporting world, here in South Florida, as we have the championship game on the horizon. A lot of people posting bets now. Your man, Andy Slater. Andy See You Later Slater. We gave him the nickname. And I think he still goes by that, Andy See You Later Slater. I believe on 640 WMEN, which is, you know what? You think about it every now and then, it crosses my mind. Why don't I call a couple of radio stations and see about getting like one show? Maybe I could sell and make a few bucks. And I enjoy being on the radio. I really like the medium. It was my favorite of all mediums to experience and work in. And while it may be a dying component, I look, newspapers. I enjoyed being a sports writer, Luby. I don't know. Did you ever aspire to be a sports writer, or just strictly broadcasting in your dreams of what
I
you want?
liked reading sports writers. I always liked writing. So I guess that the world's crossed my mind at some point. I always dreamed of being a coach and then fell into this, so I sort of skipped that.
Okay. No, I enjoyed it. I really, I thought that's what I always wanted to be in the electronic media, and especially after I saw the cars in the parking lot
Exactly.
as you were looking around and seeing the various sportscasters assemble for these press conferences in Los Angeles, and you're watching Musburger pull up, and he's got some kind of car that you would expect maybe if you ran into a member of maybe Glenn Fry or one of the members of the Eagles, maybe even the Philadelphia Eagles. And we were looking at the newspaper guys, and we were mostly in schlepper cars. A lot of Toyota Corollas there in the parking lot. Nissan, I guess, what was the thing of the day. Datsuns. It wasn't even Nissan. It was Datsuns.
I was going to say Nissan was Datsun.
I remember when I elevated to a Datsun B510. It was a hell of a car. The B5. I don't even think it was it a B510 or it was just a Datsun 510. Good car. But I'm looking around going, wait a minute, where is the money being distributed? Is it going to these ink-stained wretches with the mustard on their shirt, or is it going to the guys that are carrying the microphones? And let's face it, you don't need to know grammar or speak in complete sentences to do this, especially now. I thought it was very helpful. It was a great foundation for me to be a newspaper writer, but really enjoyed it. And yet, I mean, the cycle right now that we're in here in South Florida with the University of Miami in the championship game going against Indiana. 8.5 now, Lubie. 8 and a hook. The money's coming in on Indiana. People are overwhelmingly impressed with Indiana's two drubbings of their opposition so far in the CFP. And Miami has mowed down 3 very, very impressive heavyweight programs on their way to being in this position. Mario Cristobal seems to be a different guy, doesn't he, Lubie? It's one thing to talk the talk, and then it's something else to walk the walk, as the saying goes. But Cristobal is exuding confidence, is he not? Have you seen any of the Cristobal press conferences? Sort of a reserved bravado that he's expressing as he has the Canes there primed up to play for the national championship in her hometown. But I'm seeing any number of postings all over the place. And I mentioned Slater. He's on 640, which was a station that I did work at for several years. I want to say I had 2 different stints there. Steve Lappa, the late Steve Lappa, the world's, I mean, he was a genius in some senses and maybe the world's dumbest smart guy. I don't mean to impugn his integrity by saying that, but and maybe he wasn't dealing with a full deck. If you're the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, do you have a chance, Lubie? If you're the general manager of one of these basketball teams like the Wizards, do you have a chance at all? It's kind of like looking at Robert Saleh and his tenure with the New York Jets, or any of these quarterbacks that have played for the New York Jets. Are they permanently soiled and damaged in terms of your image of what they're capable of doing? And is it fair to judge anybody based on a stint with the New York Jets? If you're in the worst organization, Louis, do you really have a chance to shine? And we'll find out. I mean, Robert Saleh all of a sudden being considered heavily in terms of possible head coaching positions. I don't know if he's going to get one of them, but the one knock against him would be what? that he was the head coach of the New York Jets.
First of all, Darnold's, and I get it. To me, it's not the Jet thing as much as Darnold just wasn't good with the Jets, and it bothered me because I actually thought Darnold was going to be good. I really liked him in that class. So I guess the Jets thing, or they just are a bad franchise and draft poorly, because if they draft the right guys, then you've seen the Lions, you've seen the Rams, you've seen bad Cardinals in the past make it to, like, bad franchises can turn it around if they have the right GM, the right GM and the right talent. My problem with Salah is it reminds me of Flores. Like, I think he's a ridiculous defensive mind. I think he's a fantastic defensive mind. He never could figure out the offense, and he never showed that he got better at it. Like Flores, it was only 2 years for Flores. I think it might have been 3 years for Salah, but like his offense has struggled the entire time. Yes. So if you're going to do it right as defensive mind, which we've seen it done, you need to go and get like a great offensive mind and leave them alone. Like, you need to do. Now, Dan Quinn screwed it up too much, because when Shanahan was trying to chuck the ball when they had a 10-point lead with 3 minutes left, that's when, as a defensive mind, you can then tell the offensive mind, but for the most part, if you're a great defensive mind and you want to succeed as a head coach, you have to find an amazing offensive coordinator and let them be the offensive head coach. And
look at Vrabel. I guess you could use that as an example. He brings in Josh McDaniels.
I think he's good at that. So many defensive guys aren't, and that's what scares me about Salah. I think he's a fantastic defensive mind. I don't trust him with offenses.
Flores, I don't know that he had any chance with that offense, did he? He hated two. Number one, but they were dragging in offensive linemen, literally picking them up at a gas station in Pembroke Pines a couple of hours before the game. Chris Greer, he'd go to a Shell station, and all of a sudden he's got his two starting right and left tackles. And so I don't know that he had much of a chance with that offense. He ended up with Fitzmagic being a guy who triggered and sparked a little bit of life into the offense, infused at least some energy into it. And that was, a scathing indictment, I guess, against any chance he had to be successful. And he still won games, which was amazing. I can see your point. I mean, a defensive guy, he's able to decode offenses, but for some reason isn't able to be overly imaginative when it comes to creating offensive sparks.
And it shouldn't be that case. Like, an offensive guy should be the reverse. But so often you see the offensive guys either call the offense or hire an offensive coordinator, like a Joe Philbin, where they're there, or Mike McDaniel, actually, but they don't actually call the plays. And it's often you see them get these great defensive minds, and they have nothing to do with the defense. It's just rare you see the reverse. Like, the defensive guy should be a great head coach. I'm sure.
What about Sean Payton struggling offensively with that team?
Well, then exactly. That's his offense, and he stays away from the defense. If you notice, right? Like, it's rare that you see the defensive guy have an elite offense. I'm trying to think of it, but that's what scares me. I have too much. Flores actually did a good job. He just sucked with the offense. And Salah,
he didn't have any talent, though. I mean, he really
no, he didn't. He had issues, but a lot of it was sort of the guys he wanted to go get Watson. Yeah, that would have been a great move. Going
at the time, though, he wasn't alone. So post-race handicapping, I wasn't necessarily convinced that Deshaun Watson was going to be worth that kind of investment, but a lot of teams around the league had to have that same opinion. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had the leverage to get the deal that he did from the Cleveland Browns. So, lousy organization. Well, I mean, the coaching carousel will be, and we're very much in the midst of that also as part of the storylines here, because you not only have the Miami Hurricanes in the cycle here, but you do have the coaching carousel going on, which now includes, and I don't know how you feel about this, Chris Shula. Chris Shula, who has proven himself to be a very significant defensive mind, and it's not necessarily a blatant nepotism. I don't know, but was David Shula really qualified to be an NFL head coach, or did he just end up in a lousy situation also, which negated any chance that he had? David Shula, great guy.
I don't know, because it's funny. He got the one shot with the Bengals, and then from what we know, he chose to go into the family business of restaurants. So from the other family business of coaching.
That wasn't a bad business either. They were making money.
They both are great businesses. So I don't know, and I was too young to know his path. Chris Shula's earned it. Like, he did coach with the Dolphins years ago and been around the Dolphins, but he's gone up the ranks. He's been coaching for like 20 years. Like, he's been with McVay for a while. The defense sort of had fallen on hard times, and he helped revamp the defense. Like, Chris Shula is a legit coaching candidate, and it's not just the Dolphins that are interviewing him.
If qualified, which he appears to be, Lubie, should it not be an automatic? One thing at least about this Dolphins coaching search, they're being fairly thorough. I don't know that their number one priority by a wide margin is not to get John Harbaugh. That seems to be an MO that everybody's using, including the New York Giants, who supposedly, I guess, Mara sat down to dinner with John Harbaugh as a prelude to them meeting and having an official interview for the job. What do you need to ask John Harbaugh except how much money does he want in the interview? How's that interview going to go? Is it going to be like that Joe Philbin interview with Stephen Ross, where Stephen Ross says, "How you doing, Joe?" And he doesn't even answer, and he goes, "You know what? You're great." How many mistakes have we made? My God, it's been unbelievable between all of these different coaches they brought in that was supposed to be the answer and the cure for what ails the Miami Dolphins, which is years and years of mediocrity and now sub-mediocrity that has afflicted this team for a quarter of a century. Same amount of time, Lubie. Same amount of time that we've been looking at futility with the Miami Hurricanes, who went through a legion of coaches as well, trying to find the right answer. And would you say that they found that? I mean, if you get to the championship game like they did this year, how can we? I know his game day decision making is highly suspect, and I haven't seen enough evidence to change my opinion of that. Although he hasn't done anything to blow any of these games, has he, Mario Cristobal? Has he compromised their
There's been
chances?
critical about the play calling, but I think that's Cristobal not doing it. I think that's all Shannon Dawson.
Okay, all right. Luca particularly upset that they're not considering Chris Shula immediately to get the job as the Miami Dolphins. Now, a couple of more guys may be in the mix. I don't know. What do you think the chances are of this? Because I was looking over a column today of winners and losers so far from the wild card round, and the one of the losers they had was Mike Tomlin. Is it time to move on in Pittsburgh? Never had a losing season, not one losing season in what I think is 19 years as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Always representative. They always play a decent brand of football. We have seen. Is it fair to say this? I don't know that Mike Tomlin has ever had such an overwhelming cachet of talent on his roster that you could look at the results from the season and say, you know what? Almost any other coach would have won more games than this guy. But he has been in the situation where you thought he doesn't have any overwhelming amount of talent, where he's won more games than you would have expected. So would you get rid of that guy? The Rooneys don't do this. They've had three coaches in the last 100 years. That's been it, right? You had Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin. And you thought that Mike Tomlin, I mean, how could they not have hired him when they invented the rule? Which, by the way, still gets, which Rooney did we have on the show? Is there, not Andy Rooney,
The
but.
son, we had Daniel. Was it a Daniel Rooney? We had, I think.
Was it Daniel Rooney? We had
son or a nephew. Was it a son or a nephew? Son or a nephew.
Yeah. And we ask him a lot about the Rooney Rule, or every time that we talked to him, which was at least two that I recall. He had a book out. For some other reason, he was made available for interviews, and of course, we took advantage.
Well, he had a thing about the Rooney Rule, so he was going around about the Rooney Rule, and we talked to him, I think, multiple times about the Rooney Rule.
There are more black head coaches in the league, maybe more high-ranking black assistants. We've seen some progress in that area. But and they're including this as minorities. I guess that they considered Tom Flores to be somebody that would have been in
Ron Rivera,
the Rooney Rule. Ron Rivera. I didn't necessarily consider that Rooney Rule hires. Did you, Ron Rivera?
I did, because it was broadening it from Anglo, but the idea was African Americans who make up like 60 to 70% of the players, yet somehow are like 5 to 10% of the coaches.
That's what you wanted to try and help advance, which they were being unfairly, and as we see after getting to know some of the owners' philosophies, including Bud Adams, it wasn't necessarily like the old white guard was welcoming the idea of, hey, you know what I need? I need a black head coach. But still, there's just token homage being paid to the Rooney Rule, Lubie. Look at the New York Giants. And there are two schools of thought. If John Harbaugh becomes available, and in the opinion, general consensus of almost anybody who is a football fan or evaluator of football coaching acumen, you would have to say that his resume with the Baltimore Ravens is impressive enough that as has been the case, he becomes the number one choice of virtually every team that has a vacancy. But did you see how the Giants satisfied the Rooney Rule? I think they interviewed Gene Upshaw. They went to the gravesite of Gene Upshaw and said, Gene, you want the job? Got no response, and that was it. That was one of the two guys they had to interview that were people of color, which is a term I don't really care for that much. I don't know. How do you feel about that term, people of color, Lubie? It sounds
I mean, it's
sounds
fine.
disparaging to me. I don't know.
No, it sounds like you're trying. I don't know. I the rule's been it's done stuff because you're seeing black people be head coaches, so that's good. It's just
Yeah.
obviously hasn't done what it set out to do, but you're seeing the black and minorities get more opportunities. So I guess it's at least starting to work after what 20 years of this rule.
Flores is right. I mean, does anybody have a chance when you're just paying tokenomics though to the rule? What kind of impact does it really have? Where you go out and do the mandatory two interviews with two black guys, and you have no intention of giving either of them the job. That's even more futile, isn't it, Lubie? And that was one of Flores's contention that so many times. I guess the classic example was Eric Bieniemy, who never did get a head coaching job. And what happened to him? Is he done? He became an offensive coordinator. What with the Falcons? One of those teams that wasn't doing well. Was it Washington? Well, where did Bieniemy end up being an offensive coordinator? And the offense fell flat on its face, unfortunately, because guess what? Talent really helps make a coach's resume go one way or the other. And when he was the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Andy Reid was going, "Hey, could you make sure you get my order into the Chinese restaurant?" As he was looking at that play card that we think is a restaurant menu, and Bieniemy was doing it. I don't know. He wasn't calling any plays. What exactly was he doing there to give him the qualifications to be a head coach? I thought he was getting shined on. It sure seemed that way from the storylines and the narrative. But what happened to him? He's never under consideration anymore, Libby. What happened to Eric Bieniemy? Do you have any idea?
Uh, he started not being good.
He left the Chiefs, and that's it, right? There's 0.0
He
on the
went to
scoreboard.
the Commanders, and their offense struggled, and then he went somewhere else, and so he sort of was proven true that he wasn't deserving because he just wasn't that great of a coach. And I'm sure there was racial undertones in there, and there was issues, but he also just wasn't great, and he's sort of just gone by the wayside.
Interviewed for like 1,000 jobs. I never got any of them. All right, so Tomlin, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, what do you anticipate there, Libby? The Pittsburgh Steelers, loyal as they come when it comes to their
They
head
should
coach.
move on. It's look, and again, they're not going to find someone as good as him. They're going to struggle, and they're going to go through doldrums. As a Dolphins fan, I can tell you that's going to happen. But also the plateauing thing, at some point you do have to move on from it. Like they've hit their plateau. Yes, they make the playoffs every year, and they also haven't had a quarterback since Big Ben.
Haven't won a playoff game in a long time,
And I'm
too.
sure Tomlin's involved in that. They've not won a playoff game in a very long time. They've hit a plateau, just like the Ravens had. And at some point, you have to start over. Is it smart? Probably not, because you're going to be bad for a while. But it gives you a chance at hopefully being good again. Like what the Ravens are doing is just sort of hovering. And at some point, that you will eventually be bad after hovering. So you might as well be proactive.
Hovering where, though, I guess would be the question. The Ravens were hovering around the possibility that they were among the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year based on what Harbaugh had done with them in recent seasons. And there was reason to believe that he would get them to the Super Bowl, especially when you saw the decline of the Kansas City Chiefs. You're thinking they're one big nemesis. Well, they had two, right? Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs were both the teams that were highly regarded coming into the season, along with the Ravens. So these anticipated results and expectations, so to speak, might have been a little bit lofty, but they were lofty because this was the guy that got them there. I don't know that people were expecting so much from the Steelers this year. To go 10-7 wasn't bad. Aaron Rodgers, that was interesting yesterday after the game. He walked out at a press conference, got sick of answering questions. Does he come back next year, Libby, or does anybody care anymore? Is this getting like the Brett Favre narrative?
Yeah, it is, and he needs to retire. I mean, it's done. This team was built for him, and if he was good, he could have raised them to a different level. He's not. He's done. The Steelers were not really shouldn't have been a playoff team, but the Bengals had their issues, and the Ravens had theirs, so it sort of opened up the floodgates. And then the Dolphins had their issues, and the Jets had their issues, and the Chiefs had their issues, so it sort of opened things up for the Steelers. And again, Tomlin's a good coach, and he's able to make bad better. But the Steelers don't want to be average, like they're used to winning. And I think he sort of just hit that crescendo.
So you would expect them to maybe get rid of Tomlin and bring in some fresh new blood, not a coaching retread. And would one of those? I mean, if you were the Pittsburgh Steelers and you had a choice of bringing in Robert Saleh for his second go round as a head coach or retaining Mike Tomlin, my thought would be retain Mike Tomlin. Man, the guy's never had a losing year. How do you turn your back on a guy after what he's done for the organization? But nonetheless, so we see how that goes. And I understand the whole principle of maybe that they just need a new message or a new approach or something along those lines, kind of like, you're replacing a top-notch Hall of Fame jockey with another jockey, just thinking, okay, let's just see if there's a different response if somebody else is at the helm. So that leaves us with the Miami Dolphins coaching search. What has been your assessment, Mike Lubitz, of the way they're approaching this? They interviewed a lot of guys for the GM spot. They seem to get somebody that is well respected. I don't hear people screaming about this Sullivan guy. Is that because nobody knows anything about him? Because he started out in the mailroom with the Green Bay Packers, and as Dave Hyde pointed out yesterday, that's been his sole organization in the National Football League, which is kind of unusual, but maybe admirable in the sense that he really did. He worked his way up from the bottom floor there. He was an intern, for God's sake, and became influential with the general manager. Packers have always put out a pretty decent product for the most part, although I didn't see them as a championship caliber club this year. I don't know if you did. They had too many of those collapses, especially against the Chicago Bears. When they lost that 16-0 lead with like 3 minutes to go in the game, did that not raise a few red flags for you about the Green Bay Packers being any kind of serious threat in the postseason?
Well, look, the fact that LaFleur has had a lot of talent because of the GMs and because of the personnel people, and they haven't crossed that threshold. People are right to have their questions for him. I'm just a Dolphins fan, and we've been bad for a long time, and he's still young. So to me, it's like he's already gotten to that place young. He has room to grow and become better. Like, I'd rather see what's ahead of him than some of these other guys that haven't done it yet at all.
All right, if you had to take a shot, Lubie, at who would be the next Dolphins coach, I'm assuming, I don't know why I'm assuming this, but and they're going to throw a lot of money at John Harbaugh. I don't know. It just seemed like all along he's going to take this interview early on with the New York Giants. The Giants have made no doubt about their intention to try and land this guy. As you pointed out yesterday, maybe a little frugal when it comes to this area of just, and Harbaugh is adamant about paying his assistants in the high caliber range of salaries for assistant coaches. And he himself, what was he making, like 14, 15 million a year?
Probably, yeah.
Wow. When did that happen?
Yeah, NFL coaches make a lot more money than we realize.
Yeah.
We just don't hear about it because when they're fired, their salary goes away as opposed to these buyouts with college. So that's when all of a sudden you hear about the actual salary about the college coaches. The NFL coaches are like Sean Payne's making 18 million.
I didn't know that escalated. It's like doubled, right? Where a $10 million head coach was, wow, are you kidding me? They're paying this guy $10 million? And now it's 20, Lubie? That's unbelievable. So the money should be no object in the National Football League. How much money do you think each team is making every year? Whether they win or lose, I can't imagine that anybody's losing money as an NFL owner. I don't know that we need to get a GoFundMe page for anybody that owns a team in the National Football League. And as we've always said, people need to keep in mind the escalation in the value of the franchise when owners start crying, I don't know, man, we can't pay out all this money, and lowering ticket prices is out of the question. And you're thinking to yourself, my God, you bought the team for $300 million. It's worth $5 billion today. What did Jerry pay for the Cowboys? Now, a lot of that was his own innovation. He managed to put together the whole stadium deal, and he's a brilliant businessman, as Jimmy Johnson pointed out to us when we had that interview with him down there at the Big Chill. He said that, Jimmy, I've never known a smarter businessman, and you have to figure Jimmy's come across a lot of them during his lifetime. As he's been involved in football, college, and pro level for forever, or at least was. Uh, yeah, I mean, you have to take into account the value of the franchise. Even the Marlins are worth more than they were a few years ago, which is amazing, right? Considering that, has that been one of the quietest off seasons you've ever seen?
Haven't done
Outside of,
anything. So yes, it's been quiet because they've been totally inactive.
they traded away Cabrera, and we got three relatively unknown prospects. That's great. I hope they work out very well. But so here's where we stand, Louis. And the NFL playoffs were sensational. Last night's game wasn't all that exciting because of the end result, and the Steelers. It was close for a while. Steelers had their chances. C.J. Stroud kept making mistakes, Louis. Mistakes. He threw a couple of really bad balls in circumstances that you would have thought this guy's got to be smarter than that with the football. And yet they win it 30-6 last night, and it sets things up this way. So you have Houston now going to New England. I think a lot of people thought that Houston was going to win that game, even though they were on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They go to New England. That Houston defense is legitimate, Louis. New England's defense is also, I think, better than advertised. New England's defense was very impressive in that last ball game that they played against the Chargers. Look, they beat the living crap out of your man. Justin Herbert was hit 21 times in that game. So I know you're not a big Herbert fan, and you really resent the whole argument. I mean, I don't know that anybody spent more time eached when it was suggested that the Dolphins blew it, who went number 6. And your theory is, and there's validity to it, that Herbert really hasn't accomplished all that much, in spite of the fact that they've tried different things, and now they bring in Jim Harbaugh, and he's one of these guys that really knows how to work with a quarterback, and what was going to build pieces around him, including a defense that was going to give him a much better platform to be a winning quarterback. I kind of like the kid, but nonetheless, how do you win? He's taken some of the worst beatings since Jerry Quarry. This guy in a couple of games that I watched. One of the Charger games that I focused in on, I was amazed that Herbert was even able to peel himself off the mat. He was getting pummeled, and that was the case. When you're getting hit like that, tagged like that, Louis, can you be blamed for not necessarily making the most accurate of passes later on? 21 times he was hit in that game, including 6 sacks. So that was a bit of a rough one. And yet, I mean, you look at the New England defense; they were very, very effective in that game. Houston's defense has been great all year. What do you think, Houston and New England, Louis? Who moves on in that?
Uh, it seems like two teams very similar. Young quarterbacks have gotten a lot of hay in their day. Stroud's was 2 years ago. Mays right now. Two defenses with former Patriot, not former great defensive players who have gone into coaches, linebackers who are really good at coaching and coach great defenses and coach smart teams. The Texans ended up, I think, finished like with a number 1 or number 2 defense in football. The Patriots didn't, but yes, they are playing good defense. That's where I lean is I think the Texans defense overall is a little bit better. And I think
on the road, they're on the road.
I know, but whatever.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be able to get after May. I know Stroud just had 5 fumbles, which is, I don't even know how you have that. I don't even know how that's a thing, but
Wow.
you would think he wouldn't do that again. I don't know. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a tight game. There's something about the Texans to me that people keep forgetting the Texans that I don't know. And they've been actually pretty good and very consistent. So I don't know. I lean Texans.
2 defensive touchdowns in a game last night. Fumble recovery for a score and a pick 6. Aaron Rodgers' last pass, if that was his last pass, was a pick 6. A lot of people were kind of getting a sort of sordid, macabre kind of kick out of that because they're not big Aaron Rodgers fans. Buffalo and Denver is an interesting one because Buffalo's going on the road and they're favored by 1.5 over the Denver Broncos, who are the number 1 seed coming off a bye week. I don't know how beneficial that's going to be. It seemed like the Bills would have gathered a little bit of old man Mo, by this thrilling comeback against a very good Jacksonville team. The big issue with Jacksonville, Louis, did you catch this now? I mean, do we have so little news in the news cycle that this was a big deal? Everybody's addressing this, Louis. So I suppose we should weigh in on this also. Did you catch the press conference there with Liam Cohn
Oh,
after the ball game?
shouldn't had no business being a reporter and praising them or something in a press conference or something like that?
Yeah. So the woman essentially says, "Hey, listen, Liam, you don't need to hang your head. It was a phenomenal season. Team went 13-4. Nobody could have anticipated that coming into the year. Jacksonville. It's not like they got scorched in this game and embarrassed themselves. By all rights, they could have just as easily won it. It took some real heroics from Josh Allen to defeat them." And the woman, I don't. Did she even ask a question, or did she just make that statement? She was from like the Jacksonville Free Press, which I don't even know what kind of publication is that. Is that like the Penny Saver? Or
Supposedly she's like a former journalist turned salesperson, so that's why she like works for the Jags and
oh,
like
she works for the
was
Jags,
supposedly that's what people were saying is that she was just trying to pump up the Jags.
so she was planted in there by the Jags to. And maybe she really just felt it. I don't know, Libby. Could you ever see yourself doing that at a press conference? I hated asking questions at a press conference. Every now and then you would have to because you had some kind of specific thing that you were going to write about or talk about, and nobody asked the question that you were hoping would be asked. And late in the game, you would kind of come in there and go, "Hey, coach, did you really mean to punt the ball on that 4th and 7, or you had no time left and no chance to win the game if you kicked the ball away?" Uh, and so I don't know. She heaped some praise on Liam Cohen. Well, was that completely inappropriate? A lot of people thought that that was the most unprofessional thing that they've ever seen in their
It's
life.
100% unprofessional. It's also 100% fine. Like people need to realize we're in a different world. We literally have fan reporters, fan sites. Scoop literally makes his things about people who were fans that are now report like things have crossed over. We're in a very different world with social media. It was unprofessional. It was wrong, and also it is per today. Like I don't know. People are losing it with the journalism. Really, journalism. Really, CBS is literally editing the 60 Minutes. CBS literally now is praising Marco Rubio, who's totally lost and has no idea what he's doing in his job. So like where we're really worrying about journalism. Like, let's focus. I'm more worried about that journalism than at a Jags game. Like, I mean, yes, it was by the book. You don't do that.
Who's more over their head in their job, Marco Rubio or Mike McDaniel when he had the
Eh.
golf
Oh,
coaching job?
Rubio. I mean, McDaniel at least got to the playoffs a couple times.
All right, so I don't know how I feel about that one at this stage of my life. Was it something that you would not anticipate being done at a press conference, post game press conference? Are reporters on such strict time constraints? Right? Hey, I'm on deadline, and you're going to do that? That they needed to run out of there. I mean, I don't know. I didn't mind it as much as a lot of people did, Louie. I thought maybe, and that is the new age. I don't know. It wasn't necessarily, you wouldn't have it under the headline of journalism, but was it so inappropriate for somebody to butt in and go, "Hey, wait a minute, while you're hammering this guy, let's not forget the guy had a pretty good season."
Again, you're talking to the wrong dude because I, in front of the world, asked Dwayne Wade after an NBA Finals game, one of the bigger softballs you'll ever ask someone, purposely setting him up to give what ended up being a great answer and ended up being on the reel and ended up being re-shown many times. So I didn't feel bad because it's all about the answer you get. But it was 100% a setup question. Like I literally asked him, people keep doubting you, Wade. He had won 2 titles to that point. He was a surefire Hall of Famer. Like whatever they're doubting it's justifiable. But it was 100% a setup question
Yeah.
that no one questioned me about because I knew how to frame it to where it wouldn't sound like a setup. Like I was drooling over him, but it was. Like, so it happens all the time. People ask questions that are leading, but they do it in the right way. This person wasn't a journalist. This person wasn't trying to do it in the right way. I also, I don't care. Like we've talked about,
Well, it wasn't like she was offending anybody. I didn't.
no, and these pressers are the stupidest things. No one says anything in these pressers.
You needed Alan Bardo at that press conference.
Yeah, like I mean, come on. Like I always thought it was weird when the people would take it very. You would have the Windermans and you have the Barry Jacksons, and they take it, and it's like, guys,
Some people are taking this stuff far too seriously.
no one gets anything out of any of these, and you know it. So like,
No.
what is
Essentially a complete waste of time and maybe a formality that should be done away with. It's possible. Everybody's absolutely appalled. Not everybody, but I mean, the majority of people seem to be appalled by this that are in the field. So I don't know if you were a fan and somebody did that. It became the only thing that was the only thing I saw out of that press conference. Did we catch any other answers from
No,
Liam Cohen? We
you
don't even know he
don't.
was a coach.
What are you getting out of the press conference? Look, it's not the Jack, like you say, the Jack Webb School of Journalism or Walter Cronkite, but
Just give me the
is
facts.
anyone is anyone right now like Jake Tapper's writing books about Biden sleeping when we have an actual president sleeping
Falling asleep. Yeah.
every time he talks? So, like, I mean, come on, like that's my thing. Is to me, it's all with a grain of salt. Like,
Yeah.
if real journalists aren't being journalists, why do you expect someone at a Jags loss press conference?
I didn't realize she worked for the team, though. I thought she
I don't
worked.
know if she. I just people were saying they thought she was in sales, so like that, it makes a lot more sense that she's not an actual journalist.
All right. All right, so that leaves us still to try and figure out what Buffalo's going to do with Denver. Buffalo favored by 1.5 over the Denver Broncos. Broncos are offensively challenged, even though Bo Nix drew high praise last year. Don't know how far he's fallen off this year. They don't seem to put up many points in any ball game they're involved in. Sean Payton, an offensive guru, and yet he can't really stimulate much on the scoreboard when it comes to point totals. Buffalo, no matter what defense they're going against, Jacksonville has a very good defense, and they shredded them in the fourth quarter when they needed to. So I don't know. What are you thinking, Lubie? Is this the time where Buffalo gets again to the AFC Championship as they knock off the number one seed, who's shaken off a little bit of ring rust after a week off, or would you rather have the week off and go out there as a fresh team, having played one less game than the Buffalo Bills?
It's funny because this is the year the Bills actually limp in, right? They didn't win the division for the first time in 5 years.
They barely got by Jacksonville in their first game.
They struggled in the first game. Their offensive firepower is lacking. Like their defense is not what we've seen in years past. But what they're still here. And what's funny is this may be their best opportunity. Again, there's no Chiefs, there's no Mahomes, there's no Bengals and Burrow. Like you don't have a Herbert that everyone wants to put as that next guy. Like it's a bunch of upstart teams that have young quarterbacks, to be really honest. So like that, to me, that versus Josh Allen, I get it. The quarterbacks don't play each other, but their plays do end up providing the outcome. It just, I don't know. It feels like, and again, I hate the Bills, but it feels like this is the year, right? Like this is the year McDermott's going to get fired. Like this is the year to me that they're pull it out of their ass and find their way to a Super Bowl. Will they win it all? That I don't know, but it feels like this is the year they'll find their way to a Super Bowl.
I thought among many that if McDermott lost that game to Jacksonville, they probably can him.
100%. He would have been fired. Definitely.
Wow. Imagine that by the narrowest of margins. That was a hell of a catch the guy made on that final touchdown pass by Josh Allen. I mean, it was not an easy play to make. Seeing some sensational catches just look like they're a matter of routine, too. Tight ends making some great plays. I mean, unbelievable catches are being accomplished in the National Football League in the playoffs. That's part of what made them so exciting, although the last couple of games were not close like the first four. Rams in Chicago. Chicago, a very difficult team to judge. This is in Chicago, where the crowd, I do believe, is influential, and certainly the circumstances, you would have to think from a weather standpoint. I don't know what the anticipated weather report is for Saturday or Sunday whenever they're playing that game in Chicago, but I would imagine it's not favorable, Lubie. Not favorable at all. The Rams, West Coast team, but have the guy, I don't know, is he going to be the MVP, Matthew Stafford, or do you give that to Drake May?
I mean, their seasons are really close, and Stafford's been in the league a long time and never won it. And May's in year 2. So I presume they'll give it to Stafford. A lot of the time they do that and again, his numbers are better when you look at touchdowns and interceptions. So
it's more of a lifetime achievement award.
And then the lifetime thing, yeah. Like a lot of, especially with MVPs, you'll see that late in people's careers. If they had, now again, if his numbers weren't there, it wouldn't be an argument, but his numbers are. He has more touchdowns.
They're very close.
Close on interceptions. I know May had better completion percentage, and they ended up having a better record, but he had like almost 10 more than 10 touchdowns more and the same amount of interceptions. That alone to me, I would give it to him. And then the career thing. Like,
okay.
May will win it. May can win it later. Stafford's old as hell. Like, it feels like it'll go to Stafford. If it goes to May, he deserves it. It'll probably go to Stafford is what I think.
You can make a strong case for either guy with very few detractions from either's resume. Right. So what do you see? Most people are thinking the Rams win this game. They're actually 3.5-point favorites on the road. 3.5-point favorites on the road to the Chicago Bears, who we've seen. Look, the Bears have been the cardiac kids. They've
Cardiac
made
kids. That
any
thing
number of
scares me.
incredible comebacks. We talked about this yesterday. And that being said, I don't know. Can you afford to get into that kind of a jackpot and be trailing by 2, 3 scores, as they say? In this case, almost 3 touchdowns. They needed 3 touchdowns to end up winning the game minimum. They're down 21-3 in the second half of that ball game. Can they pull another miracle out of their fannies and beat the Los Angeles Rams?
That's my thing. First of all, you're led by a young quarterback, young coach, team that's just turned it around. The Rams have been doing this for a few years now. But also, the Bears keep doing the comeback thing. And that thing go the way, right? It's like, okay, like what they're trying to do with the Canes is just, it's just meant to be. They They keep finding a way. That, to me, watching enough sports, that usually rears its ugly head. Like at some point that comes to a head. Like at some point you keep getting down and a good team's like, okay, that's fine with me. And they put you out of your misery. I would lean again. I felt like the Rams are this weird team in the NFC that they're not getting enough attention, and that I could see them coming out. So to see when they almost lost in round one, that I was like, oh, that's annoying.
It was lost to Carolina. Let's not forget that. They made Bryce Young look like he was.
He looked great. It was the best game he's ever played in the pros. Yeah. It looked since Alabama. So that scares me a little. But the Panthers were playing good football, and the Panthers had done that to them already and other teams. So I don't know. It feels like I would lean Rams just because of the young, like Caleb. You never know with him. I know he's played better, and I know he's played really smart, but he's in there somewhere. So like this would be the kind of moment I could see. And he's not a cold weather as much as you're like, well, the Bears in the cold. And yeah, but Caleb Williams isn't cold. Caleb Williams isn't like playing the cold guy. So
he's been there long enough to be like a frozen fish stick. No, I mean,
I don't know.
2 years in Chicago will definitely numb you to the weather, I think.
I would lean Rams, but root on Chicago because I think they're a really fun story. Like I really think it's fun what they're doing.
Ben Johnson.
The Rams will probably win.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him. All right, and the last one, Lubie, San Francisco, Seattle, interesting matchup there. San Francisco, if you looked at them in Week 18, you thought no chance. If you looked at them in this postseason game that they just played with their big upset, you're thinking, yeah, I mean, why not? Seattle, you're waiting. You keep waiting for the collapse.
That's my problem. This is the one where I'll pick the way, and I don't feel safe at all with this pick. Like I feel like Seahawks may actually find their way to the Super Bowl, and I just haven't watched them at all, so I can't comprehend it that they've overturned it like that.
Seattle. Seattle's offense is legit. As long as Darnold doesn't fold like he did last year with Minnesota. You would have thought Minnesota was a wrecking ball that was going to be very tough to contend with, and then all of a sudden. And that one's a little bit high and outside. I mean, he went euchre. Last couple of games, he was awful. He was throwing balls that, looked like if it wasn't blown apart by the wind, then it was some of the most inaccurate passes for a guy that had a great season leading up to that. Throws a good long ball. Another guy that had to shake off the jinx of being with the New York Jets, which is an affliction that whoever the number 2 pick is going to have to deal with once they get around to next season. All right, so you're thinking Seattle survives that one or no, Willoughby? I didn't quite catch what you're going.
I'm leaning Niners. I just feel that's not a smart or safe pick at all. It's just something about Purdy's looking like Purdy again. The Niners defense, who's gone through a lot of change, is still finding a way. Robert Saleh is making magic happen, and the offense. With McCaffrey there, we're finding, yes, Samuel's important and Kittle's important, but McCaffrey's the straw that stirs the drink. And Purdy's making plays that he made when he was young, and he's still making them. There's just something about the Niners to me. We've seen it the last few years. It's hard to choose a younger, because we hear the Seahawks, but it's not the same Seahawks. It's not Pete Carroll. It's not Russell. It's a whole new Seahawks, and that's good for them that they revamped this quickly. It's hard for me to pick them over the team that's been doing it year in, year out with the same core pieces. And they still have them. Trent Williams is still there. McCaffrey's still there. Purdy's still there. And they still have some of the defensive pieces still there. And now Saleh, the guy who birthed D'Amico Ryans, and I think there was another DC after him that was really good, were both from the Saleh tree. And he's the one back with Shanahan. Like the two of them together is a scary combination. So that combo, I think Seahawks are coming. I just don't think this is their year.
A seldom referenced tree. The Saleh tree. I quite like that.
Well, I mean, defensively, It was Ryan's, and then there was another guy, right? Wasn't there the guy after Ryan's is also like highly? I'm trying to think of the guy that was after Ryan's that left to bring in Salah. Maybe he was fired, but Salah's a really good defensive coach, and the fact that he's there, he's doing really, really good things. And Shanahan, when he has a guy like that, is able to get Super Bowls. He can't win them, but he can get to Super Bowls.
I mean, aside from The Rock, is there anybody who looks better with a bald head than Robert Saleh?
Michael Jordan.
Oh,
he was iconic. I don't know if he was attractive, but he was iconic.
As well as anybody. All right, bunch of other stuff going on. Wow, I can't believe we've been babbling here for like 50 minutes. Well, you've been doing a nice job, almost doing CPR there on young Luca Benici Lubitz. So very good that you could keep your train of thought going. Your man Brooks Koepka going to be back on a PGA tour. That was kind of an interesting development, as he leaves the Live Tour under the auspices of I want to spend more time at home with my family, and comes back on a PGA Tour under some special considerations that were laid out that only apply to 3 other guys on the Live Tour right now. What happens when the Live Tour is just a bunch of old has-been European hacks that at one time had risen to a level where you thought, wow, this guy's pretty good, and maybe even had some accomplishments. I mean, Phil Mickelson. How shot of a fighter is Phil? Although usually shows up at the
Very
Masters.
much, very much. There was some tweet the other day that was supposedly from him that was utterly insane. It's like, oh, he's definitely lost it.
He's got it. Ryan Rolop is the new commissioner of the PGA. So he opened up a very unusual door. And I was reading an online assessment of this, saying this could be the end. Could spell the end for the Live Tour in this division that's been going on in professional golf. For those of you that are golf fans like I am, college hoops. Wow, Dusty May finally lost a game just when you thought he was going to win a national championship. I saw the odds for the national championship in the NCAA. In NCAA hoops, had Michigan number 1 just as of like 2 days ago at plus 450 to win it all under Dusty May, which would be, imagine that. Now that's. How good of a coach is this guy? If he could get FAU to the Final Four and then turn the Michigan program around in a very short period of time.
It's a great coach. It's the reason why FAU was doing everything they could to keep him.
Well,
That's amazing.
They can't compete. It's unfortunate. They would have to dig up Howard Schnellenberger and shake out whatever cash they paid him to get the program started there. And Arizona's number 1. A lot of undefeated teams. A lot of teams with lofty records, college basketball. And that's a sport I haven't really seen too much of so far, Libby. I don't know if you've been paying any attention to it yet.
FSU sucks, so it ruins it for me. I know UM's actually played really well, which is good.
Yeah,
FSU's had their issues, so it's made it tough for me to keep following.
LeBron, Charles Barkley, you're dead wrong if you don't think that football is always going to dominate when they go head-to-head with virtually any other sport. And at least from my viewing perspective, it's kind of pushed college basketball, which I'm a big fan of, into the distant background at this point. But rankings have Arizona number 1, Iowa State number 2, UConn's 3 at 16-1. Purdue and Duke are both 15-1, and you got Michigan in there with Dusty at number 4. A lot of good teams. I remember we were touting Gonzaga. They're 17-1. They're only ranked 9th in the country. Is that because they don't play the same caliber of opposition?
Yeah.
Is Mark Few in the hospital with some kind of
had some illness? Yeah, I don't know if he's still there, but he had something. Yeah,
I think he's still there. I saw some post on social media. All right, we're going to come back in just a moment. We'll get into this Koepka thing maybe a little bit if you'd like, Lubie. I don't know if you want to deviate into golf, and we're happy to have you guys with us. We'll be back in a moment. Now that 8:54.
Joe Bees. The bees collect the pollen, bring it to Joe, he packages it, and he gets it to you. It's simple, 100% natural, and it's good for you.
There's only one place to get Joe Bees, and that's from me. Joe Bees.
If you want to look and feel good, call 877-300-5632.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the fake caring. Women can sense this immediately. You don't really care. You didn't really want to do any of this.
We now return to the Defo Show.
Right, welcome back to the show. So while we have a few minutes left, one of the stories out there involves Brooks Koepka, who we've mentioned many times on the program. I don't know that anybody looked more coked out than Brooks Koepka did. Used to be able to identify who was and wasn't on cocaine. Lubie, well, everybody pretty much was, or at least a large component of the people that I was hanging around with, especially in the electronic media. And I mean, this was in the 80s and the early 90s. It was just, it was almost inescapable if you have a penchant for and an unfortunate habitual addiction to almost anything that makes you feel that good. And you used to be able to kind of, you would think you would go to work after like a 2-day binge. I don't know if anybody experienced this. You've been up for 48 hours. Your eyeballs and your pupils are not even dilated. I mean, they literally look like kaleidoscopes.
Oh,
Going off in your eye sockets there. And you look in the mirror and you're doing that thing, it happens when you run out of Coke or you stop doing it for a little while. And, you pretty much have to just keep it going. I remember, unfortunately, having one of those binges, and I had an interview scheduled with Pat Riley that I had worked very hard to
oh my God,
bring about. This was when I was on 640, believe it or not. And it might have been at the tail. That might have been the epiphany that made me think I never want to do this again, which you say every time that you did it, even back when the stuff was pure as the, and right off the Colombian vine. And it would become pretty good. You would look in the mirror in the morning and think, okay, I'm fine. Like, you got to be kidding me, man. You've been up for 48 hours and you can't stop doing this stuff. Where it started out, you would do a line and casually talk, maybe take a sip of wine. Now you're just, it's insane. It was one of the most insipid drugs that you could possibly do because the first hit was like great. And then the rest of the time, it was just constantly chasing. Yes, constantly.
I never did it. So when
oh, you're so lucky, Lubie.
My friends were like, don't do it. I'm like, what? They're like, you've never done it? I'm like, never. They're like,
oh, you would have loved it too.
Don't do it. They're like, it's expensive as hell and it's short-lived. So don't do it.
By the time you got around to it, it wasn't very good either.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, I never, I've dabbled in things that I've never even considered.
Usually though, I mean, because you would experience this yourself, you could always tell who was just doing blow.
Yeah. When someone's on, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would have to say, I mean, this is an unfair assessment, and I don't mean to cast any aspersions if they're not justified in some way. But when Koepka, after what major was it that he won, was in the Panthers box that time, the Panthers suite?
Yeah. The 2 years ago, when the year they lost.
How blown out? If he wasn't on cocaine, what was he on? I mean,
he was on coke. He was coked
remember
out.
when we used to see Rodman and we were thinking, we don't know what drug he's on, but I want some because I've never seen a guy this happy in my life.
100%.
All right, so he's been, I don't know, would you say, is Koepka a controversial figure? He seems kind of unapproachable, like he looks like he's angry with the world. I don't know, is he actually a nice guy? Well, what do we know of Brooks Koepka in reality? Lubie, as from a personal standpoint. I always thought he was blowing off his girlfriend, like she was always walking behind him, and he would kind of brush by her after he would have one of these major wins. And she was ready to fawn all over him, do the thing that most golfer wives or girlfriends do, where they run out on the green there and leap into the guy's arms. And it seemed like he wanted no part of that. And yet he's married to this woman, and they have children. Jenna something. She's some kind of influencer or model, a very attractive woman. And Koepka, let's face it. I mean, does he not make a nice appearance? He's got teeth like Secretariat. And he has game, and it's an attractive game. DeChambeau became extremely popular when he was just, he was on the juice and he was hitting those 400-yard drives, and he didn't care. It was like he was just going to drill a line drive through the woods, and he didn't care that the tree branches would be shattering off. And then Nance would be stunned as he had to observe, oh, my God, that ball's right in front of the green.
Yeah.
Incredible. So he was powering his way around the course. And Koepka had a little bit of that kind of golf machismo, did he not?
Mhm.
Where he was just going to hammer shots. But he had enough touch and finesse to win majors. What does he have? 4 major titles, Brooks Koepka?
Mhm.
Did he win the Masters? Does he have like 1 Masters and a U.S. Open and 2 PGAs or something? I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up. Anyway, so this guy, Brian Roloff, comes up with a new thing. I think just almost immediately subsequent to Koepka saying he wanted to leave the Live Tour. Now, do you think you're a conspiracy
Are
theorist?
you allowed to leave? Like, is it like a gang where, like, once you're in the family or the mafia, like they don't just let you leave?
You're worried some sniper's going to take Koepka out on the PGA Tour while he's at the Waste Management tournament there, and all those drunks are on 16. That would be an easy place if you wanted to get retribution for you
He's
took
won-
our money.
He's won 3 PGA
3.
championships,
3 PGAs.
2 U.S. Opens. He's finished
2.
second twice in the Masters and tied for 4th in the Open.
We shortchanged him a major.
He has 5. Yeah, he has 5.
So they come up with this category which would make you eligible to return after defecting to the Live Tour, to the PGA Tour, where if you're a highly accomplished golfer, you can make certain concessions to the PGA Tour and get back on the tour. It could be a case where this becomes just a Koepka rule because he may be the only guy that it ever applies to. As I don't know, do we see a lot of guys defecting for the Live Tour anymore? That never happens, does it? When was the last time a PGA guy left for the Live Tour? Lubie, has that happened in the last couple of years, or that?
A while. It's been a while.
I think Live Tour has been a 4-year thing, and we've been talking about it seemingly forever. In terms of analyzing what's going on in the golf world, it was interesting. Whatever happened and became of Greg Norman? Has anybody seen or heard from Greg
That's
Norman?
a wonderful question. No, not at all.
That's scary. Am I a little worried about that?
Scary. Yep. He was the face of this thing and then magically just went away.
Disappeared. Holy Khashoggi. My God. I mean, is Greg Norman dismembered somewhere in the Sahara Desert where we'll never find them, buried in some sand dune? That's you couldn't step out if you had a...
surprised. I'm not expecting it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is.
So is this the boldest move ever made in sports? He got his $300 million or whatever it was that they paid him to defect. Now I'm not sure what their arrangement was for him to leave. It did seem like it was somewhat cordial on the part of the Live Tour executives. These statements were not laced with any kind of venomous comments about what a traitorous bastard Brooks Koepka happens to be. They're going to welcome him back here. Now, there has been a precedent for it because the Live Tour guys were playing in the majors if they were qualified to do so, which was more and more difficult to do because of the fact that they weren't involved in the rankings anymore for the most part, unless they had won a major. And those are the qualifications. You have to have won a major between 2022, or I guess that is in coincidence with the start of the Live Tour, and now you had to have won at least a major or a couple of other tournaments qualified, the TPC. So there are only 3 other guys that qualify under these stipulations, Libby. And that would be DeChambeau, who I don't know what he's going to do. You talk about having the most leverage any athlete ever has. Holy Cody Bellinger, my God. This guy, I mean, if he leaves the Live Tour, DeChambeau, what's left of them?
Is there still a tour? I haven't heard anything about this.
They only play 14 times. I think they're expanded to 4 rounds. They're more off the radar than the WNBA was several years ago before Caitlin Clark got involved. But if all of these guys defect and end up back on the PGA Tour, it would be Cam Smith. I don't know if anybody really cares about him. Cam Smith, good player, but really not high profile, I wouldn't think, even among at least among casual golf fans. John Rahm, who would be a big-time presence, and DeChambeau. Those are the only other 3 guys that it applies to, these rules that were set forward. They have to give a $5 million donation to charity, which is pocket change for anybody who was on the Live Tour. They don't participate in this PGA equity thing, which was brought about by the Live Tour because the PGA guys were saying, "You want us to stay? Huh?" And they had to get a piece, which they did. So that could be anywhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 85 million you're sacrificing. Gets kind of interesting, though, Lubie, when you think about the price that Koepka's paying to come back after. Well, I don't imagine money will ever be an issue for this guy.
No, I mean, they made so much money.
My God, staggering when you think about it. How tempted would you have been, Mister Blood on My Hands, to have gone ahead if you were a golfer?
Again, we
Your
talked
your profession is offering you this opportunity, but it appears to everybody to be a total sellout. How would you have felt about that?
And to me, we talked about it. Like if I was a guy that was barely struggling, it would have been hard to say no. I mean, you have to take care of your family. You have to be realistic. If I was one of those guys that was doing well, it seemed douchey. Like you're doing fine here. Again, what's the difference between 100 and 125? I get it, 25 million, but is it going to change your life at all? No.
Yeah,
So
you're making
more
60
principled to me if you have that much money, like, or at least I would have tried.
It's one of the sidebar stories of the day here. Brooks Koepka coming back with those big teeth. So we'll see what happens with him. Panthers won last night. They beat the Buffalo Sabres, who actually the Sabres, you always think of them as being perennial doormats, but they were playing some decent hockey this year. They had resurrected hopes that maybe someday they might be relevant. And the Cats, who had fallen, I believe, on some recent hard times on this road trip, and were getting annihilated. I mean, the games weren't even close. Come up with a 4-3 victory. And what's up? One last thing. What's up with your Miami Heat, Lubie? They're horrible the last couple of games.
They're a disaster. It's Bam can't score at all, and he struggled, but now it's like a whole nother level, and it's been a while now. They're worse when Hero's out there. Powell has been consistent, but no one else has been consistent. They're a mess. They're another disaster.
All right. So we hope they resurrect.
Oh, I know. I hope they go after Morant. Like the Morant deal is sort of seems lingering.
Oh, why don't they give up to get Morant? What do you think?
Hero and maybe one of the young guys and maybe a pick or something. I don't know if he's on the team. Where they probably wouldn't give up, but I don't think they'd have to. Like Grizzlies are ready to see Morant go, and he'd have enough young stuff. And again, because he's such a head case, it's not like teams around the league want him. I think the talent's there. He's still in his late 20s. Like the Heat seem like the kind of players that could wake him up. And that's the kind of move that could jolt their team who's fallen to like a malaise. And I think him with Powell and Bam, if you can wake Bam up, is as good as any trio in the East. So I think that's sort of the move that's lingering there that I'm curious if the Heat may take it.
From an entertainment standpoint, the guy's a tremendous attraction to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And he has been a winning player. It's not like he's always been in a losing situation there. But he's one of those guys that you see labeled as a head case, and he's had a variety of incidents, including the thing with the gun and all of this other stuff. But doesn't he seem like a head case that will always be some sort of head case?
That's what teams around the league are banking on. That's why you don't hear, because his talent, every team would want it. He's still young, too.
Yeah.
It's just he has had a lot of issues.
All right. So we'll see. I mean, it looks like they need to make some kind of move. So we'll see if they pull the trigger on that. That was no pun intended. All right. Young Luca, very restless today. And I understand why. Probably coming down off of that euphoric weekend of football and looking forward to the Canes game. And now he's getting 8 in a hook. Maybe a lot happier about that. Mike Lubie Lubitz, thanks so much. Always a pleasure. You people that were on the chat line, we do appreciate the comments and the participation. And those of you that just tuned in, it was a pleasure being with you today. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
Always still excites me to hear Johnny. That time Jason Taylor wanted to do the Johnny Addy thing, that was a brilliant tribute to the show. It's did they get that at the radio station? No, I don't think they did. I sound like a bitter Hank Goldberg. It's 9:09.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.